Thank you all for listening and watching my videos. Please subscribe and like my channel Master Coolitz. Hoping that you will not skip my ads, it's a big help for me by not skipping it. Thank you so much. Dragon Shadow. The Rise.
Liam Brooke, a seasoned general of the Northern Demon Country, stood tall and resolute. His presence was commanding, and he was known for his straightforward nature, never one to fuss over minor details. However, the Seven Kingdoms Alliance couldn't relax. Their forces numbered 100,000 strong. While this might not be enough to conquer an entire kingdom, it was certainly sufficient to overrun several cities. Suddenly, a voice rang out from the Seven Kingdoms Alliance, challenging Liam Brooke.
No means no. Get out of here or we'll beat you up so hard.
That's right. Fight us if you want. Do you think we're afraid of you?
The situation grew tense. Liam Brooke's fury was palpable. No one had ever dared to speak to him like this since he had reached the expert level. Boom! A powerful aura of the expert level burst from his body, soaring into the sky like a boundless abyss. The members of the Seven Kingdoms Alliance recoiled in fear, quickly restraining themselves. Finally, the senior executives of the Seven Kingdoms Alliance appeared. Two figures descended from the sky, looking down from above. One was Madame Tina, and the other was Ethan Wright, the current leader of the Seven Kingdoms Alliance and Caleb Pierce's grandfather. At the sight of Madame Tina, Elora's heart tightened, and she involuntarily grabbed Zane Martel's arm.
It's Madame Tina!
Don't be afraid. Madame Tina can't do anything to us now.
Madame Tina's voice rang out cold and authoritative.
Guys from Eastern Palm, we made it clear during the previous meeting that neither of us can launch an attack. Or are you not satisfied with our conditions? We can sit down and have a good talk. Why let our armies confront each other and torture the citizens?
Madame Tina's words grated on the ears of the Seven Kingdoms Alliance members, Zane Martel and Elora. Elora in particular felt a surge of anger. She remembered being treated as a tribute to Sebastian of the Godwill sect, a humiliating memory. More than a year ago, many disciples and even the higher-ups of the Seven Kingdoms Alliance had been dissatisfied with Madame Tina, but they were too afraid to speak out, given her superior strength. Zane Martel clenched his fist tightly, his anger simmering. He rose into the air, flying to the same height as Madame Tina. His voice was cold and determined.
We must enter this valley. Today, no matter what. Madame Tina, if you don't want to make anyone innocent suffer, then make way for us.
Zane Martel was wearing the Dark Wolf mask from Dark Wolf Hall, disguising his appearance. None of the members of the Seven Kingdoms Alliance recognized him. Madame Tina's expression darkened, her brows furrowing. How dare this advanced-level junior speak to her like this?
What makes you think you can talk to me? Get lost.
She released a speck of dust from her hands, transforming it into several sky pythons that lunged at Zane Martel.
I'll teach you a lesson for being ignorant on Eastern Palm's behalf. Get down.
The sky pythons bared their fangs and claws, rushing towards Zane Martel. The Seven Kingdoms Alliance members thought Zane Martel was doomed. But then, a figure appeared. A majestic sword energy shattered the pythons into pieces, shooting toward Madame Tina. It was Gabriel Stone. Madame Tina was shocked, quickly making several moves with her hands, but her attacks were crushed like paper.
Block it! Stop it!
She shouted, her power bursting out as her expression changed drastically. The sword energy nearly killed her, but Ethan Wright intervened, punching out powerful fist shadows.
Please show her mercy.
The attack was earth-shattering, leaving an impression as if a hole had been punched in the sky. With two higher-ups of the Seven Kingdoms Alliance joining forces, they barely managed to block an ordinary strike from Gabriel Stone. The crowd buzzed with speculation, their voices rising in excitement and fear.
Who is this guy? He's so strong.
Fortunately, he wasn't in the previous battles. Otherwise, we'd be toast before even making a move.
The murmurs continued as they discussed Zane Martel's identity.
Who is this guy in the advanced level? He has an expert protecting him. His background isn't ordinary.
Ethan Wright's expression grew gloomy. Behind him, the higher-ups of the Seven Kingdoms Alliance wore equally awkward expressions. A great war might see them victorious, but the risk of Zane Martel's troops executing a beheaded plan was too high. Gabriel Stone's power was undeniable. Ethan Wright hesitated, then spoke, his voice tentative.
What do you want?
Zane Martel remained calm and composed.
It's simple. Let's have a bet. If you can beat me, we'll turn around and leave now. But if you lose, you must make way for us.
Madame Tina, still reeling from her earlier embarrassment, refused to back down. Her voice was filled with sarcasm and defiance.
You have 100,000 soldiers, yet you're listening to this random guy in the advanced level? Tell your leader to come out and negotiate with me.
That's right, the higher-ups should handle negotiations, not some kid.
Exactly.
The crowd's agreement boosted Madame Tina's morale. On the flying shuttle, Gavin Owens and Liam Brooke exchanged glances, then looked at Bo Thompson.
Your Highness.
Bo Thompson stood up, her voice flat but firm.
What he said is what I said. His decision is my decision. If you want to negotiate, you can negotiate with him directly.
The members of the Seven Kingdoms Alliance gasped, dumbfounded. How could a mere advanced-level martial artist command such respect and authority? Madame Tina, furious and trembling, glared at Zane Martel, her voice dripping with rage.
Fine, what is the bet?
Set up a battle ring and find 3 of your strongest in the advanced level to fight me. If I lose, I'll retreat. If you lose, you must make way for us.
The crowd was taken aback, but Madame Tina's face lit up with a twisted joy.
Sure, that's great. You're the one who suggested this. Don't regret it.
Madame Tina thought to herself, he's being way too arrogant. But those familiar with Zane Martel knew the truth. They couldn't help but think, she's the one that was acting way too arrogant. Half an hour later, an empty space appeared between the two troops. Zane Martel stood with his hands behind his back, reflecting on the past. A year ago, he had been part of the Seven Kingdoms Alliance's Five Spirits sect, facing Eastern Palm. Now the Seven Kingdoms Alliance stood in his way. Life was indeed unpredictable. Zane Martel's voice rang out, filled with confidence.
Who are you sending?
The crowd buzzed with uncertainty, but Zane Martel remained unfazed. He knew he had the strength to win. From the crowd, a young, handsome youth in the uniform of the Devil Flame sect stepped forward, his voice steady and determined.
I'll fight you.
The air crackled with tension as the young warrior stepped into the ring. Who would emerge victorious in this high-stakes battle? The outcome was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The fight was just beginning, and the fate of many hung in the balance. The atmosphere was electric. A murmur ran through the crowd as a young man stepped forward, his presence commanding immediate attention.
Oh my god, it's Guiji. It's Guiji. He was already in the stars of 10 palaces a year ago, and he's broken through to the 3rd stage of the advanced level in just a year.
He's a genius. Although his level is only at the 3rd stage of the advanced level, his true strength may even defeat someone at the 6th stage of the advanced level.
The excitement in the air was palpable. Many felt certain that victory was within their grasp with Guiji on their side. The name on everyone's lips was Guiji, a prodigy whose reputation was unassailable. Zane Martel stood in shock. He never expected Guiji to be his challenger.
Guiji, it's been a while.
A while? Have we met before?
Guiji frowned, clearly trying to recall if he had ever met Zane Martel. But Zane Martel simply shook his head, raising one hand in a gesture of invitation, his other hand resting casually behind his back. The crowd erupted in outrage, unable to believe Zane Martel's audacity.
Who is this guy? Isn't he thinking too highly of himself? How could he be so arrogant?
Guiji, don't worry. Just go all out and defeat him.
Guiji's frown deepened, annoyance flashing in his eyes.
Are you looking down on me, thinking that you can defeat me with one arm?
Why not give it a try?
The air crackled with tension. A saber formed from pure vital energy appeared in Guiji's hand, its length and ferocity intimidating.
How dare you! Take this!
Guiji unleashed a flurry of attacks, his saber slicing through the air with terrifying speed. More than a dozen blade lights surged toward Zane Martel, threatening to tear him apart.
Yes, this time that guy is definitely going to die.
The disciples clapped and cheered, convinced of Guiji's imminent victory. But Zane Martel remained unfazed.
Guiji, you've grown a lot over the past year. You're indeed worthy of being in the stars of 10 palaces.
As Zane Martel spoke, a golden red light emanated from his right hand. With a single motion, he unleashed the Thunderbolt Fist, sweeping away all the blade lights. The powerful force struck Guiji, sending him crashing to the ground, creating a massive crater. Smoke and dust filled the air, stones and debris scattering everywhere. The crowd stood in stunned silence. One move. With just one move, Zayn Martel had defeated the pride of the Seven Kingdoms Alliance. In the crater, Guiji struggled to his feet, a trace of blood on his lips, his face contorted with pain. He looked at Zayn Martel with a mixture of confusion and recognition.
I think I've seen your move somewhere. Do we know each other?
Zayn Martel was taken aback. He hadn't expected Guiji to remember his moves despite their limited interactions.
We do know each other, and we used to fight side by side. But you don't recognize me.
Fight side by side? That's impossible. I wouldn't forget someone who fought side by side with me.
Guiji shook his head firmly, disbelief evident in his eyes. Given Zayn Martel's moves, it was inconceivable that Guiji wouldn't remember it.
I used to be a member of the Seven Kingdoms Alliance.
The revelation sent ripples through the crowd.
The Seven Kingdoms Alliance? He was from the Seven Kingdoms Alliance? How did he end up in Eastern Palm?
He's a traitor of the Seven Kingdoms Alliance. That makes him even more deserving of death.
The crowd's hostility grew, but questions lingered. What had led Zayn Martel to this point? And how would Guiji respond to this revelation? Guiji frowned hard, his mind racing, but unable to find any clues about Zayn Martel in his memory. He cupped his hands together, his voice tinged with curiosity.
May I ask for your name and background?
Five Spirit Sect, Zayn Martel.
The name echoed through the air, sharp and piercing. Zayn Martel's calm tone belied the uproar it caused among the members of the Seven Kingdoms Alliance.
What Zayn Martel? Is he really that Zayn Martel who caused a great commotion in the peace negotiation hall?
Oh my god, it's Zayn Martel. No way, he's alive?
God, goodness.
Guiji's body trembled violently in disbelief. Slowly, Zayn Martel took off his mask, revealing his original appearance. Thunder seemed to strike everyone's hearts. It was him. It was Zayn Martel. He had returned. In front of the Seven Kingdoms Alliance, Madame Tina's body stiffened. Her eyes widened in fury, and she clenched her fists so tightly that her sharp nails stabbed into her palms. Zayn Martel, the person who killed her son, Kai Rivers, made a scene in the peace negotiation hall and almost killed her and Albert. How dare he return?
Zayn Martel, you traitor of the Five Spirit Sect, how dare you return? You bastard!
Zayn Martel turned to look at Madame Tina, his gaze cold and unyielding.
Why wouldn't I return? I didn't do anything wrong. Should I run away because I'm afraid of a bitch like you? Let me tell you, you aren't that powerful to make me run away from you.
Outrageous. This was outrageous. Madame Tina trembled all over, her lungs about to explode with rage. How could he call her a bitch in public? How could she tolerate this insult? Madame Tina was in the expert level and a higher up of the Seven Kingdoms Alliance. Sitting next to her, Ethan Gale's face was ashen. Even he had not expected the person to be Zayn Martel. A familiar figure stood next to Ethan Gale. It was Thomas, the leader of the 4 major cultivation academies of the Five Spirit Sect. Thomas was solemn, trembling slightly. He smiled wryly to himself.
Dad, I told you giving up Zayn Martel is our loss. Do you regret it now? But there is no cure for regret in the world.
Among the members of the Seven Kingdoms Alliance, a beautiful girl with silk-like eyes and dark green pupils stood. She was none other than Guiji's younger sister, Rebecca.
Zayn Martel.
Her heart was overwhelmed with mixed feelings, her expression shifting rapidly. A year ago, when she first encountered Zayn Martel, he was still a nobody she could kill at any time. Gradually, Zayn Martel became stronger and made a name for himself. From an expert in the intermediate level to an existence on par with the stars of 10 palaces, he even created a huge commotion in the peace negotiation hall. Rebecca could not accept seeing him change and evolve so fast. The gap between her and Zayn Martel was growing larger and larger. Now that they had met again, he was already standing at the peak, looking down on them. Meanwhile, she was just a so-called genius of the Devil Flame sect who thought she was a big shot. Rebecca finally realized how insignificant she was at that moment. Almost everyone's emotions were mixed with complicated feelings. They were the ones who kicked Zayn Martel out. Yet he was now standing in front of them like a king. They were extremely regretful. Zane Martel's heart swelled with pride as he took in their stunned expressions. He often dreamed of proving himself to these people that he hadn't done anything wrong. Madame Tina was the one at fault. It was the Seven Kingdoms Alliance that had done wrong. The tension hung thick in the air. What would happen next? How would Zane Martel's presence shake the Seven Kingdoms Alliance further? The answers remained elusive, promising more twists in this gripping tale. In the Grand Hall, tension hung heavy in the air. The members of the Seven Kingdoms Alliance shuffled uneasily, their whispers blending into a nervous hum. Madame Tina's anger was a palpable force, her fury almost tangible as she trembled with rage.
Guiji, kill Zane Martel at all costs. This is an order.
Her command echoed through the hall, freezing everyone in place. They exchanged bewildered glances, unable to fathom why she would provoke such a dangerous conflict. Zane Martel's name was whispered among them with a mix of awe and respect. Many recalled the tales of his bravery, especially from the Water Cloud Stream battle on the Eastern Prairie. He had inspired countless disciples from the Azure Dragon Academy of the Five Spirits sect. Guiji, standing amidst the murmuring crowd, couldn't help but smile wryly.
Kill Zane Martel at all costs? I can't do that.
Guiji's voice carried a mix of admiration and resignation. He had seen Zane Martel's strength and courage firsthand. He knew he was no match for him.
Zane Martel showed me mercy. A huge mercy.
As Guiji shook his head and stepped back, Madame Tina's fury intensified, her face flushed with anger, her voice rising in a shrill crescendo.
You good for nothing. You can't do anything. Who else? Who will step forward to kill Zane Martel and save us from this embarrassment?
Her words cut through the room like a knife, but the members of the Seven Kingdoms Alliance only looked more uneasy. No one wanted to face Zane Martel. They had heard too many stories of his power, his victories, his defiance. In the corner, Ethan Gale, the respected ancestor of the Five Spirits sect, frowned deeply. He leaned towards Madame Tina, his voice low but stern.
That's enough, Madame Tina. Haven't you embarrassed us enough?
But Madame Tina, blinded by her rage, ignored him. She turned to Thomas, the sect leader of the Five Spirits sect, her eyes blazing.
Thomas, as the sect leader, it's your responsibility. Go and deal with this mess.
Thomas's heart sank. He knew the depths of Zane Martel's strength. Could he, even with his mastery in the 7th stage of the advanced level, stand a chance against Zane Martel? He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead. Slowly, he flew over to Zane Martel, stopping just short of him.
Sect leader, it's been a while.
Zane Martel looked at Thomas and smiled, a warmth in his eyes that spoke of respect and old loyalties.
I'm glad you still call yourself the sect leader, Thomas. You did what you could. You've done enough.
Thomas's eyes softened, a hint of relief washing over his strained features. He had once thought highly of Zane Martel, seen his potential, his strength. Now standing before him, he felt a pang of regret and pride.
I failed to protect you and Alora. I should have done more.
Zane Martel shook his head, his gaze unwavering.
You did what you could. You gave me a chance when no one else did.
Thomas's thoughts drifted back to that day, the memory of his secret help, the flash move token that had saved Zane Martel and Chu Feng from certain death. He had always believed in Zane Martel, even when the Seven Kingdoms Alliance had turned their back on him. The hall fell into a tense silence as the members of the Seven Kingdoms Alliance watched, their hearts pounding with a mix of fear and curiosity. Would Thomas truly fight Zane Martel? What would happen next? Madame Tina's patience was wearing thin, her face contorted with frustration as she glanced around the room, searching for anyone brave or foolish enough to accept the challenge.
Is there no one willing to defend the honor of the Seven Kingdoms Alliance?
The silence was deafening. No one stepped forward. The tension grew, a heavy weight pressing down on everyone present. The future of the Alliance seemed to hang in the balance, teetering on the edge of a blade. And then, with a sigh, Thomas turned back to Zane Martel, a hint of determination in his eyes.
Zane Martel, what will you do now? Will you want to return to the Alliance? Or is this the end of the road for us?
Zayn Martel's expression grew thoughtful, his eyes narrowing as he considered the question. The hall waited, breathless, as they hung on his next words, knowing that whatever he decided would shape the fate of them all. The atmosphere was charged with suspense. What would Zayn Martel's choice be? Would he stand against the alliance that had betrayed him, or would he find a way to heal the wounds of the past? The answers hung just out of reach, a tantalizing mystery that left everyone on edge. The future was uncertain, the outcome unknown, and as the scene faded to a close, one question lingered in the air. What would Zayn Martel decide? The air was thick with anticipation as Zayn Martel stood before Thomas, his expression calm yet resolute. The tension in the hall was palpable, a silent witness to the unfolding drama between the former allies.
Sec leader, what about Senior Amara?
Zayn Martel's voice carried a hint of worry. Since the peace negotiation hall incident, he had been anxious about the safety of Amara and Xavier. These two were the closest to him in the Five Spirits sect, and he feared Madame Tina's wrath might extend to them.
Don't worry. Although Madame Tina often makes things difficult for us, they will be safe and sound as long as I'm here.
Thomas's words were intended to comfort, but there was a shadow of doubt in his eyes. He paused, hesitant, before asking the question that weighed heavily on his mind.
Zayn Martel, if I invite you to return to the Five Spirits sect, now, will you want to return?
Thomas's hope was evident. He had always believed in Zayn Martel's potential, and now that belief had been validated beyond his wildest expectations. Zayn Martel's return could elevate the Five Spirits sect above all others, restoring its former glory and surpassing every other sect in the Seven Kingdoms Alliance.
If I say no, will you make things difficult for Senior Amara and Master Shuling?
No, I won't.
Zayn Martel's expression softened, but his resolve remained unshaken. He had made up his mind long ago.
Thank you for that, but I won't go back.
The decision was final, and it carried a weight that settled over the room. The Five Spirits sect had abandoned Zayn Martel in his time of need, and now he had moved beyond the ties that once bound him.
I understand. The Five Spirits sect has betrayed you, but if you want to return, even if only to visit Xavier and Amara, the gate of the Five Spirits sect will always be open for you.
There was a wistful note in Thomas's voice. He had anticipated this outcome, but still, the reality of Zayn Martel's rejection was a bitter pill to swallow.
Thanks.
The hall remained silent, the tension ebbing and flowing like the tide. Thomas's thoughts raced. He knew that maintaining even a tenuous connection with Zayn Martel could prove invaluable. One day, if Zayn Martel became an unparalleled expert, the Five Spirits sect could bask in the reflected glory of his reputation.
In that case, Zayn Martel, make your move now. Let me see just how much you have grown.
Thomas's challenge hung in the air, a test of Zayn Martel's abilities, and perhaps a final attempt to reconnect with the prodigious disciple he had once mentored. Without warning, a mass of white clouds emerged from Thomas's body, swirling around him with a ferocious intensity. The wind howled through the hall as the clouds darkened, rumbling with the promise of a storm. Lightning flashed, and the air crackled with electricity. The sound of explosions reverberated as Thomas launched his attack. His fist force was a powerful surge of energy, a testament to his martial prowess.
Great timing.
With a swift motion, Zayn Martel struck out with his palm. The air around him shimmered with a dazzling golden light as he unleashed the Thunderbolt Fist, a technique imbued with immense power. The two forces collided in a spectacular display of energy. The Thunderbolt Fist met Thomas's fist with a resounding boom, the impact shaking the very foundations of the hall. For a moment, the two powers were locked in a stalemate, but Zayn Martel's strength quickly overpowered Thomas's defenses. Thomas's fist force shattered like glass, fragments of energy dissipating into the air. The Thunderbolt Fist continued its relentless advance, striking Thomas with unyielding force. With a thunderous crash, Thomas was sent plummeting to the ground. He landed in a deep pit, his body racked with pain. Though not as humiliated as Gui Ji had been, he was clearly defeated. His limbs felt as though they were on the verge of breaking, and the blood roiled in his chest, threatening to spill. The hall fell into a stunned silence, the members of the Seven Kingdoms Alliance staring in shock at the scene before them. Zayn Martel's power was undeniable, his growth remarkable. Yet what lay ahead remained uncertain. The alliances and betrayals, the loyalties and conflicts, everything was now at a crossroads. As the dust settled, Zane Martell stood tall, his gaze fixed on the future. The question lingered in the minds of everyone present. What path would he choose next? Would he carve his own destiny? Or would the ties of the past pull him back into a world he had vowed to leave behind?